Are you curious about the USTA getting into American coaching and licensing all coaches now in the country? It's an interesting story. Let's dive in and talk about it on the Prodigy Maker Show, episode 100. It's Chris Lewit here. I'm very interested in this topic because it's something that I've been asking about for many, even decades now, as I've wondered why the USDA doesn't license coaches, train and certify coaches, and require coaches to have a safe play certification, to have ongoing continuing education credits. The USDA has been an anomaly in the world of coaching and coaching education. As I've traveled around the country to Spain, for example, and France and other countries in Europe, pretty much the standard is that the national federation, the national governing body of a country, licenses and trains and certifies that the coaches are knowledgeable and that they've had background checks, maybe first aid training. That ensures a quality coach, and also a coach that is safe, especially around children. And the USDA hasn't done that. For many years, I think there's been a call for them to get involved with American coaching, and they have demurred. And there could be many reasons for that. It could be multifactorial. In the US, we've had two private organizations, the USPTA, which is now the RSPA, and the Professional Tennis Registry, the PTR, which is used to be the USPTR. And those two private organizations have pretty much run the show in the country. And the USDA has sort of delegated coaching education to those private organizations. And it's definitely been an anomaly in the world of tennis, coaching and licensing, because I can't think of another country now that doesn't have the national governing body certifying, training, and licensing its coaches. So now the USTA is moving into that space, and I'm a member of the PTR. I'm a member of the RSPTA for many, many years, actually. For over 20 years, I've been a member of both. And I think those organizations do a good job, by and large, in certifying coaches. But now the USTA is moving into the market, and I feel that that's a big danger for USP, or the RSPA now. Used to be the USPTA, and the PTR. They are really probably in danger in terms of their own survival, because what it looks like the USDA is going to do is move into the entire space and license every American coach. And I can easily see that in a few years, you may have to have a USDA coaching license to teach tennis in this country, to be on the court. And it may become a standard, and that could put the very existence of the RSPA and the PTR in jeopardy. So that's one part of the equation. These organizations that have been long-standing teaching organizations in this country, they may survive in some other form, maybe as educational complements or supplements. But I think that most coaches are going to move to this new standard, and they may be required to. They may be required to be part of USDA coaching. We'll see how it plays out, but I certainly think that looks like that's what's going to happen here, and that's certainly the way it is in France and in Spain and Germany and England and pretty much every country I can think of around the world. There may be some exceptions that I'm not aware of, but guys, I just want to take a moment to talk about our affiliate, the Topspin Pro. We endorse this product. It's one of my favorite devices to use at home. I also have several of them at the club, and we use them all the time when kids are waiting in line to drill, or to help kids actually practice their brushing and lag and whipping up through the ball. So it has a very good mechanism where you can see the ball spinning. It's very addictive, and my students love it. So I think it's just a great device. You can use it at home on a rainy day, in inclement weather. You can take it with you on the road to do warm-ups and practice in the hotel room. It's very lightweight and portable. So I just think it has a lot of uses, and I really like the mechanism. Very easy on the arm. You're not going to get any injuries, and you can do lots of excellent practice with the Topspin Pro. So please go to chrislewit.com/Topspin Pro to purchase the product. And it is an affiliate of ours, so it helps support the program, helps me bring you this great show by purchasing through the link. If you go to chrislewit.com/Topspin Pro, and you can buy the Topspin Pro there. It seems modern and responsible for the tennis federation of a country to ensure that there's safe play, that children are, especially children, are safe from potential predators. Sometimes coaches can be like that, and that in general the level of coaching is high in their respective country. So it's been kind of a surprise to me that USTA hasn't moved into this space more aggressively previously. And I'll tell you an interesting story about what actually occurred and what motivated them, what stimulated them to go into this full coaching space and to get involved so dramatically in American coaching now for the first time. But in other countries, they ensure quality coaching. They ensure that the coaches are safe, and I think this is overall probably a good thing. Now, some people may express an interest in having the free market and not having a dominance of the USTA over coaching, but these are trade-offs that you have. If you want to have safety, if you want to have consistency of coaching level, you have to allow somebody to run, some large organization to run things, and there probably will be some rigidity, especially coming from the USTA, in terms of the requirements and licensing. And I go through this a lot. I'm an EMT, and I have to be licensed by the national governing body of. I'm an advanced EMT, which is one level below paramedic. I'd like to get my paramedic license in the near future. I volunteer on my local town ambulance, and you can't ride on an ambulance. You can't provide medical care without a license. So to me, I understand that there's going to be probably some restrictions, and there's going to be there's going to be a hierarchy here, and there's going to be kind of a top-down lead by the USTA, which some people chafe at. But overall, I understand that we need the organization to run things comprehensively and universally around the country. And the USTA is what we have in this country. The USTA is the national governing body of tennis in this country. For all of its people like to criticize the USTA, we need someone to make sure that coaching is safe and that coaching is competent. And the USTA has the resources and the scope, to make this happen in this country. So, part of me is excited to see if we can grow the game for coaches. We can get, one of the goals of USTA Coaching is to get more coaches in the game. They've done some research, and it looks like fewer and fewer people are getting involved with coaching. So that's definitely concerning. So I think on the whole, I'm optimistic that the USTA can come in and protect children and make sure children are receiving better coaching. On the other hand, I harbor some concerns that there'll be a rigidity in application of licensing, and the educational requirements there may be too much conformity. One of the nice things about having a free market is coaches are allowed to experiment and to be creative, and they don't have to follow certain rigid prescriptions for how to train players. That could be a potential downside. I know that's an issue, for example, in France, where I've traveled, and not as much in Spain, but in some countries where in England, for example, where the national governing body rules authoritatively, sometimes the coaches are forced to follow a certain dogma, a certain prescription of training, a certain methodology. And so that could be a potential downside. We may not see as much creativity in coaching and independence in coaching. So that's probably a real concern. But when, just from a child welfare point of view, and on providing a better quality of education to coaches and a better training experience to players nationwide, I think this is probably a good thing. And I already joined. I've been one of the first coaches to join USTA Coaching because I feel this is pretty much every coach will have to be USTA licensed at some point. And I wanted to learn more about it. In fact, in a video, I just got the big box from USTA Coaching, and in a video, I will unbox all of the documents and I'll show you what I got, training manuals or whatever they sent me. And I have that big box. I haven't opened yet. I'm saving it for a video for this channel, so parents and players and coaches can kind of see what it's all about. But I've been one of the first to join. I joined the Pro Plus tier, which is like the highest tier for full-time coaches. And I've been involved with the USTA. I took the USTA High Performance coaching program. I graduated from that, which I thought was a very valuable educational program. I really appreciated that program, and I know the high performance coaching program may come back in some new iteration. I hope it does, because those were some of the best educational offerings that the USTA offered for many years, and I used to take many of those courses, and I really enjoyed them. I felt like they helped my coaching education a lot. So the USTA has definitely contributed positively to my coaching education personally. For example, I went to study with Jose Higueras when Jose Higueras was in charge of USTA coaching. He was the director of coaching. I used to go for studies trips to study with Jose, to spend time with him on the court, and he was incredibly generous to me, and I still appreciate that. And that was related to USTA coaching. It was not a USTA program per se. It's something that I did on my own time, but Jose was part of the USTA, and he allowed me to come and shadow and study with him for many years. I used to make a trip to Palm Springs and spend time with Jose. I also went down to Boca when USTA used to be based in Boca. Now it's in Lake Nona. And I've had a lot of positive experience with the USTA education in the USTA High Performance program. So that bodes very well. If we can do more programs like that for more coaches around the country, that would be really, really beneficial in terms of raising the level of coaching in the country. At the same time, I've seen how the USTA has struggled with bureaucracy and politics, and I think making changes that should be implemented in the game that haven't been made. I've seen the USTA sometimes move at a very slow pace to make positive improvements in the game. The best example I can think of is cheating in junior tennis, which in my personal experience as a high performance coach, I've seen just rampant cheating. I think it's something I've talked about on numerous videos and podcasts. I've written articles about this, but for decades I've wanted the USTA to take this type of lead in solving cheating in junior tennis, because I think the junior tournament scene is really negative and is kind of like a poison place where kids get traumatized. And this effort by the USTA is to try to improve child welfare. The USTA coaching. I just wish the USTA could move as aggressively into the space of making sure there's fair play in junior tournaments. So that's one link that I would like to connect with here, that I've seen the positives of the USTA. The USTA High Performance Coaching Program has been wonderful for me, and there's many great educational offerings, and I have many good relationships with former and current USTA national coaches and things like that. At the same time, sometimes the USTA can get caught up in a bureaucracy where it doesn't move fast enough on important issues, or it's not as responsive as it could be. And I think the case of cheating in junior tennis is a great example of that. I think we've had just a terrible tournament scene filled with cheating and bad behavior, and there hasn't been any real improvement in that over the years. And now we're finally getting to some technologies. The USTA has supported play replay, which is a video recording system that can offer fair play at tournaments. So that's a positive step. That's one small positive step. But I would have loved to see, I would love to still see more leadership from the USTA in solving cheating in junior tennis, because I think it turns off many, many families with kids who might want to compete, who choose not to. And it just tarnishes the game in general, tarnishes the whole sport, and makes for a very unpleasant experience for many parents and families. And not to mention the trauma it causes, psychological trauma for many young kids who go to a tournament and they're cheated badly, or they're manipulated, and they have no they have a bad experience, and they develop these um, terrible memories of competitive tennis, and that can't be good for children, and it can't be good for growing the game. So the USDA has positives and negatives. It's a large corporation, and there are levels of bureaucracy, and there can be some institutional rigidity, but there can also be some positive things. And I think I'm hopeful, I'm optimistic that USDA coaching is one of those very positive things, where we can sort of transform coaching in this country. We can get a lot of resources to try to lift coaches up, to try to make coaches not only more knowledgeable, but also make sure that maybe all coaches should have a first aid training. Maybe all coaches should have background checks, which is something the USDA is going. They're promising to implement these requirements. I think that is probably a good thing for the game, and hopefully the USDA will not be too dogmatic about what each individual coach is teaching, and that remains to be seen, how heavy-handed and dogmatic the teaching and educational requirements are, for example. So one of the most interesting things about this story is that it looks as if the USTA moving into coaching is based primarily in response to a lawsuit that they lost. They lost a lawsuit to Kylie McKenzie, who was a USTA player, and she accused the USTA of negligence, that she was sexually harassed by one of her coaches. One of her coaches at the time was a national coach, Anibal Aranda. And the most amazing thing is, small world in tennis, is I know Anibal personally, and he worked for me one summer in my camp. And we never had any issues when he worked for me. And he went off to take a national coach job with the USTA, and he became embroiled in this controversy and became the subject of a lawsuit along with the USTA. And apparently in 2024, the USTA lost this lawsuit, and they awarded $3 million in compensatory damages to Kylie McKenzie, the player. And they also awarded $6 million in punitive damages against the USDA to the plaintiff. So that is $9 million of lost revenue to the USDA. It's a big dent, from this legal case, and it seems to have spurred this entire movement into the U.S. into what's now called USDA coaching. And I guess it's understandable that maybe the leaders of the USDA sat down in meetings and said, this is we need to do something about this. We need to create we need to ensure that all coaches are uniformly licensed, and that they're all safe play certified. They've all had background checks. They all have CPR training and things like that. And then what we can do is also at the same time make this into a movement to grow the game, to uplift coaches, to grow more coaches in the game, because coaches are kind of the backbone of American tennis and building players. And so it seems like the lawsuit really created an epiphany in the USTA at the higher levels of management, at the executive level, and it spurred a lot of discussions about answering the age-old question: should we be involved in American coaching or not? And finally, it sort of was the tipping point that led the USTA to actually, start the USTA coaching movement. I don't know if it's a corporation. I think it's a separate entity, maybe a business corporation or nonprofit. I'm not sure what its official, how it's officially registered, but they decided to put a lot of resources into building out a coaching platform that's online. So there's a lot of educational offerings, and there's a platform that you get access to when you join, and then licensing and certifying that all coaches have the skills, and licensing them and making sure that they're safe. So it seems that this lawsuit by Kylie McKenzie has sort of created, it's created this this brand new move by the USTA, which is potentially very positive for American tennis. But it was enough to get the USTA away from the inertia, to push through the inertia of actually doing it, and because they stalled for many years. For many years, they refused to really get involved in American coaching. They let the RSPA, formerly USPTA, and the PTRs kind of run things and certify coaches, and it's a little more laissez-faire and hands-off. So, interestingly, this lawsuit has been the impetus for this brand new coaching movement, and it could be. I'm hoping that it will be a renaissance for American tennis, starting with the uplifting of American coaches. That's what I'm optimistic for. So I joined USTA Coaching. You guys should consider, if you're a coach watching, we have a lot of coaches who like to watch the show. You should definitely look into it. And one of the things I'm disappointed at is there's no health insurance. There's the health insurance concierge, but I know as many of you who are independent coaches out there, we really need, we could really use a group plan through USTA Coaching. So if anyone from USTA Coaching catches this pod or this video, could you guys please take all of us American coaches, put us into a group and negotiate for a really good health insurance plan? That would be something that would be wonderful for that independent coaches haven't had. And that would be really one of the biggest benefits you could help us with as American coaches, especially coaches who are entrepreneurs like me, or independent, where we have to go into the market and buy our own healthcare. That's a large expense for many coaches like me who are independent and run their own business. There's a lot of other positive benefits that USTA Coaching offers. Everything's still in the works now. This was a brand new announcement in August that USTA is getting into American coaching, and there's a new online educational platform, there's all sorts of, there's a lot of momentum in this space right now, and this is kind of a brand new deal. We don't know exactly how it's going to play out. Apparently, they're going to transfer over my high-level certifications from the RSPA and the PTR. They're going to sort of grandfather me into the highest level in USTA Coaching. I hope I shouldn't have to redo all of my early level educational certifications that I've already done. So hopefully I'll be grandfathered in at the highest level in USTA. I think it's called level 4. They're supposed to be, they have they're going to transfer credits from coaches from other organizations, that coaches and educational experiences that other coaches have, other certifications. They're going to be a way to transfer those over. So you won't have to redo all of the educational requirements. That's a positive. And I'm looking forward to hopefully the USTA High Performance Program coming back, because that was a great program. Maybe they could merge those two. The concept, you have the broader umbrella of USTA Coaching, and then they could work together and collaborate with the USTA High Performance Coaching Program, and they could collaborate and maybe offer some higher level coaching education and sports science programming for educational programs for coaches who are interested in sort of being on the cutting edge and getting more education in sports science, the highest level coaches in this country. That would be nice if they could weave in the courses and offerings that the USTA High Performance Program used to offer. I know David Ramos from the USTA. I think he's still running USTA High Performance, the coaching program. So maybe there's a way that he can work together with Craig Morris. I believe is the new CEO of USTA Coaching. Maybe they can work together and develop some programs for higher level, more experienced coaches such as myself, who've taken a lot of educational courses and would really like to get more involved with the sports science. And maybe one of the things that was really great was sort of having a place where top coaches in the U.S. could get together and talk, share ideas, give presentations, have discussions. And that was one of the coolest things about the USTA High Performance Programs. You get some of the most elite coaches in the country. We all came into a boardroom or onto a court, and we'd share ideas and talk philosophy, talk shop. That was one of the coolest parts of that program. So maybe they can bring that back under the umbrella of USTA Coaching, some high performance coaching educational courses and discussion groups and ways to collaborate, ways to bring together some of the best American coaches to share ideas. I think that would be something really cool if they could bring that back. Sports science would be great. We need, the USDA has the resources to invest in sports science, especially right now. There is a dearth. There is a very small amount of sports science research in tennis research to try to promote healthy tennis play, optimal stroke mechanics, things like that. We could use resources and funding and more sports science education. I think sports science is the future for coaching. And so the USDA, under this coaching umbrella, could really be progressive in trying to incorporate sports science into all the training of all coaches. They could offer advanced courses. They could, provide some small funding for sports science research, especially tennis-specific research, because we have so little of that. Like if you look at the tennis literature, there's really not much research available, so you don't get much evidence. Even when you're trying to look when you're trying to operate in an evidence-based way, there may not be a lot of evidence out there. There may just be one study on this subject, no studies on that subject, a couple of studies on this subject. So it would be great if the USDA could work to improve the level and the breadth and the depth of sports science, especially sports science related to tennis. They could bring in experts to train coaches. They could fund, in a small way, tennis-specific research. These are some things that I'm interested in doing with my PhD studies, looking into what causes injuries in children when they're learning the serve, for example. What are some of the biomechanical or orthopedic issues, that biomechanical things that could affect rates of orthopedic injury? That would be an interesting area of studies. All sorts of areas, especially related to health and children. There's interesting research areas that the USDA could promote. That would be awesome. And they could bring that into the coaching education space. I'd love to be involved with that at some point. When I get my PhD and if I'm doing some research, I would love to, I like to teach. So it would be something I would actually enjoy sharing my knowledge and my sports science background, both my knowledge on the court, working with players, and from an academic point of view. I would enjoy mentoring other coaches, like I've done with the PTR and RSPA. I like giving lectures, for example. I like training coaches. It's fun to train coaches because then they go out and they help more people than you could just train. You could just help on your own. So I enjoy teaching and educating. And that might be something that I could even get involved with myself at some point down the road. So I think there's a lot of positives here with USDA coaching. What do you guys think? Are you worried about sort of a top-down authoritative bureaucracy taking over American coaching? Are you an RSPA or PTR pro and you're resentful or concerned about this? Uh, I'm a PTR pro. I'm an RSPA pro. I have maintained my certifications in those organizations while also um, um, getting licensed with USTA Coaching, and I plan to continue that for now, unless USTA Coaching becomes the only license that's required or that's necessary for American coaching. I plan to stay on all the organizations right now, but we'll see how it plays out. If you're a parent, I think this is probably a good thing for you as a parent, because I think you'll get it'll make sure that your coach is safe for your kid to work with, although you should always be suspicious and you should always be cautious with any coach. And I've always told parents, don't leave your kids alone with a coach, no matter how much you trust them, because you just never know. There are many examples of predatory coaches out there who can be abusive to kids, not just in a sexual way, but even just in a verbal way or with the language they use, or they might they may have very poor values and set bad example for your kids. But I have 3 daughters, and the idea of a coach sexually abusing one of my kids is incredibly troubling and offensive, and would be just devastating for my kids or my family if a coach took advantage of one of my kids that way. So I feel that this is, to offer safe play, to make this move, even just for the welfare of children. So the child welfare aspect to me is like very, very important. That's why I would like to see the cheating stop in junior tennis as well. But the child welfare aspect, I'm excited just for that, which sounds kind of lame, I guess, for some people. It's not high on their agenda. But as a dad, um, I'm really positive about this idea that all coaches will be safe play certified and have a background check. That's a good step that we can take. It doesn't ensure you weed out all of the predators out there, but it is a good step. I think parents still need to be vigilant, and there should always be the rule of 3. There should always be an extra person at the lesson or with a coach and a player. In general, coaches shouldn't be left alone with a player one-on-one like that. There should always be a third person. Rule of 3, sometimes they call it. So that's how I see it. How do you guys view this? If you're a parent, please leave me a comment. If you're a coach, let me know what you think from a coaching perspective. If you're a player, you may not even realize that coaches in this country are not officially licensed by the National Federation. But maybe as parents and players, you've had experiences with a coach who's not very professional, or a coach who you didn't feel safe with, or a coach who didn't seem very knowledgeable. And maybe coaches just shouldn't be allowed to just grab a racket or take a weekend course and go teach at the local courts, and you don't know anything about their background. You don't know if they're knowledgeable or safe. Maybe we just need to have more policing, and we need to have this sort of universal protection in this day and age in this country. Guys, let me know what you think. USTA Coaching, some real positives here, potentially some drawbacks, but definitely a trend in the tennis industry that you should be aware of and you should be watching closely, because over the next year or two, there's going to be a lot of news on this. There are going to be some major updates to coaching education, coaching requirements, and hopefully in the next few years, you start to see better trained coaches coming to your local court and teaching you or your kids. And also, one of the main goals that USTA says, Craig Morris says, that he's trying to grow the amount of coaches in this country, to raise the profession up, to lift coaches up. So, I'll take him at his word. That sounds like a really positive goal, and I would love to see more coaches in the trenches. I would love to see more passionate coaches helping children in this country. And as you guys know, I'm I would really love to see a higher level of coach education in this country. More coaches with college degrees in coaching, masters and PhDs in coaching. I think that's sort of the future of coaching, getting a really good background in sports science, kinesiology, exercise science. That's what I'm doing myself. So if there's any way the USTA can promote that, better education, I think that's going to be a positive as a whole. All right, guys, episode 100. We should celebrate 100 episodes of the podcast. I will see you guys on the next program. God bless.